It was a quiet evening when everything shifted, the moment everything I thought I knew about my life and my marriage crumbled into pieces. For years, I had felt like a solid foundation beneath our family's growth. We met in college, spent our first years exploring the world together, and got married right after graduation. We were eager, hopeful, ready to create a family. After we settled into our lives, she went off birth control, and, soon enough, things started to change. The passion surged between us, as it often does when a couple feels both invincible and deeply connected. But even with all that, it still took 3 long years before we saw that precious positive test, and our first child was born, our daughter, a symbol of the love we built. But life has its way of reminding you that things don't always unfold as expected. A couple of months after our daughter was born, she decided to go back on birth control. At first, it seemed like the right move, but she started feeling terrible. The side effects hit her hard, one medication after another, and nothing seemed to help. We talked and debated whether to have another child. After much discussion, we decided it might be easier to wait, to leave the option open for the future. That's when I had the vasectomy. I thought, this is the logical thing. A decision made with care for our family. 3 years passed. The decision felt like a distant memory. But then, 3 weeks ago, things took a turn. My wife was late for her period. I tried to brush it off at first. It wasn't all that unusual for her, but something about it didn't sit right. Then, I noticed subtle changes. Her breasts were tender. She started showing signs of morning sickness. I couldn't ignore it any longer. Could nature have undone my vasectomy? It wasn't impossible. I had heard of it before. So, I went to the doctor to check. The verdict was clear. I was still sterile. But I didn't tell her. I couldn't. The situation spiraled even further when she went to her own doctor and got the news she was pregnant. She insisted I get retested. I stalled. The weight of it all was crushing. I couldn't shake the thoughts running through my mind, the betrayals, the confusion, the heartache. I waited until I couldn't bear the uncertainty any longer. I had the tests done. The results came in today. I was ready to embrace the truth, no matter how ugly, but nothing prepared me for what I would read. The shock hit hard. Yes, I'm still sterile. But no, my daughter is not mine. Not my blood, not my flesh. The realization was like a punch to the gut. I felt a sickness rise in my stomach, not just from the test results, but from everything that followed. When my wife came home, I showed her the results. At first, she denied everything, saying the tests were wrong. But I had the other test from last week to back it up. Her walls crumbled. She broke down, tears streaming down her face as she admitted what had happened. She told me the truth, the affair, the mistake, and how the condom must have failed. I made her repeat the story again and again, each time demanding more honesty. Is this really the whole truth? I asked. Because another lie means it's over. She said it was the only time. She claimed she had never done anything like it before. But that didn't stop the whirlwind of emotions inside me. I couldn't process it. I asked her how she could do this to me, to our family. Was it worth it? I demanded to know if she wanted a divorce. She pleaded with me, begged me to forgive her. She wanted to move past it, to forget. But how could I? How could I raise someone else's child? I asked her, with broken words, if she would terminate the pregnancy to save our marriage. Her cries echoed through the house, but in the end, she promised to do whatever it took to keep us together. The DNA test was a wound I could never close. I never brought it up again, but inside, I felt the cold weight of it every day. As the days dragged on, I decided to consult a lawyer. I didn't know what my options were, but I had to act. My lawyer listened patiently, took my story, and walked me through the maze of options I faced. The law wasn't in my favor, but there were ways to fight. I lived in a state that offered leverage, but it came at a price. A long, expensive journey lay ahead. If my wife agreed to sign the papers, it would all be easy, but if not, a court-ordered DNA test and a judgment would likely free me from the obligation. Either way, I wasn't going to pay for someone else's child. She had a good job, made as much as I did. The divorce wasn't going to be cheap, but the idea of splitting everything evenly seemed fair. However, the holidays were a complication. The paperwork wouldn't be ready before Christmas, but the New Year seemed like the first real chance for change. My lawyer advised me to say nothing until she was served the papers. And then came the community's thoughts, a chorus of voices, some harsh, some supportive. Divorce her, they said. She doesn't deserve you. The weight of their judgment wasn't lost on me. Your daughter isn't yours, they reminded me. Others said it was time to start fresh, to leave this broken relationship behind and rebuild. And so, it began. I moved my things out, took them to my sister's house as I prepared for what lay ahead. The divorce would happen soon, but I needed support, and she was there, helping me through it. We moved everything in 4 carloads. As we finished, I moved a nanny cam into the living room. I wasn't sure what the future would hold, but I needed to record everything. At 10:45 a.m., my lawyer texted me. She had been served. I texted my wife, letting her know I was home, ready to talk. The response came quickly, laced with anger and confusion. It was the calm before the storm. And I waited. She thought they were making progress. She believed they could sit down and have a conversation before diving into the painful step of divorce. Playing the family card, she spoke about the devastating impact this would have on their child. Her voice quivered with emotion as she even mentioned feeling betrayed. But there was no escaping the truth, her actions had already spoken louder than her words. The drama unfolded further when she pulled up to a nearby Walgreens after work, a stop that would later reveal its purpose. A police car, following close behind, parked in the driveway, further complicating the already tense situation. She had called the authorities, claiming fear that there were guns in the house. As I led the officers into the living room, I showed them the empty gun safe, proving her accusation false. I explained that the guns had already been secured elsewhere. But the police weren't the only ones caught in the middle. As soon as they left, I faced her. I handed her the paternity test results that revealed the truth: the child wasn't mine. The disbelief on her face was palpable, denial washed over her, followed by tears. For 10 minutes, she broke down, her cries echoing through the room. But there was no turning back. I told her, calmly but firmly, that this was the final straw. The divorce had to happen, and there was no other way. The officers, having done their duty, made sure to remind me to keep things civil before they exited. I told them I was planning to stay at my sister's place, but I needed answers. I asked her who the real father was. Her response? I don't know. Could it be that there were too many men involved, or was her memory just selective? I pressed on, asking how many times she had cheated on me between pregnancies. She claimed it was only twice. I repeated what I had said before: if she couldn't be truthful, I was done. I couldn't raise someone else's child. I reminded her that she needed to figure out who the real father was, because I was not going to be financially responsible for someone else's baby. When she asked what they were going to tell their daughter, I simply said that was her mess, not mine. She'd made this decision, not me, and I wasn't going to clean it up. I'd already prepared 2 emails, one for friends and family, explaining everything with attached test results and the reasons for the divorce. The second was for her, containing the same documents and the truth she had been hiding. After running it by my lawyer and making a few edits, I sent them out. When she arrived home that afternoon, the feedback was already flooding in. And it wasn't pretty. The emails were sent, and she had no idea what was coming. The divorce proceedings moved swiftly after that. My wife didn't contest anything, and we filed a no-fault petition. The house was still a point of contention, pending an appraisal to determine the split. As for the paternity test, a court-ordered one was scheduled for all 3 of us. If all went according to plan, I would have the house back by mid-February, and the divorce would be finalized by early April. The day of the meeting with the lawyers was surreal. She showed up pale, with no energy, just staring out the window. Was it exhaustion or something else? I couldn't say. But as the lawyers went over the terms of the divorce, I felt the weight of the situation lift slightly from my shoulders. Walking out of the meeting, I felt like I had shed a burden I didn't even realize I was carrying. My sister had been there for moral support, and it was clear that the chaos was only just beginning. Meanwhile, my boss had offered me time off and even a bottle of champagne, something to celebrate, perhaps. But I declined. I was ready to get back to work. The feedback from the community flooded in, and the support was overwhelming. One person said, "I understand you need to end the marriage and distance yourself from the child. Just be ready for people to come down hard on you for leaving. But it's not their business. If you can't be the father she needs, leaving is the best decision." The child's mother is to blame, not you. Another commenter shared their gratitude. You handled it perfectly. Your ex is one of the worst. She made you believe you were the father and then ripped it away from you. Go full no contact. Don't be the nice guy. She betrayed you in the worst possible way. What you did, sending out those emails with the test results, was a power move. You took control. Good luck. As for the child, the decision was tough. But I knew in my heart it was the right one for me. Every time I looked at her, I saw a reflection of my ex-wife, a reminder of what she had done. And I couldn't bear it. The reaction from others was a mix of understanding and shock. Some applauded my decision to walk away, others questioned my ability to leave the child behind. But they weren't living my life. They didn't know the pain and betrayal I had been through. One person summed it up perfectly. This is like an episode of Jerry Springer, but with more paperwork and fewer fistfights. You've handled it all with dignity, even when she dragged the cops into it. And the emails? Perfect. But the most important thing is you're moving on. It's time for a fresh start. Now, the question remains, would you have stayed? Could you have raised a child who wasn't yours? Would you have been able to put aside the betrayal for the sake of the child, or would you have made the same choice I did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you soon!